Being unclear is the most expensive habit that you have. If you are a doer and actively keeping yourself busy, you are also actively avoiding clarity. Now, you can revamp your marketing systems, you can upgrade your sales tactics, you can even improve your systems. However, without clarity, you're just simply decorating chaos. Every new move might feel urgent, but none of it will compound into meaningful growth. If you don't do the inner work, you are simply hustling for recognition and you're not getting results. And you're going to be wondering why you're still being treated like a commodity instead of a market leader. My name's Michelle Sorgaroli, and I coach seven-figure business owners to help them when they feel stagnated and plateaued so that they can stand out, compete authentically, and actually generate results that matter. I have worked with countless clients who have had old, outdated websites, whose sales and marketing wasn't necessarily up to date. And what happens is that they feel that those are not relevant anymore. Maybe they feel like their marketing materials and their brochures and whatnot are not at the point where they need to be or the place they need to be. However, the frustration that they're experiencing, they feel frustrated because maybe clients aren't loyal. They feel that they're not being appreciated for the value that they believe that they generate. Their business is flat. It might be growing incrementally, but it's not growing in a meaningful way. And they've noted that clients have maybe a lack of energy or they're not engaged in the way that they want them to be. These clients have almost to a person in some form or another blamed marketing, their sales techniques, or even their team, and possibly their website, brochures, their LinkedIn profiles, etc., their social media posts. They often think that it's a social media issue. What has happened is that revenue has stagnated because they have stagnated. They are so busy being busy, so busy building, that they haven't actually grown themselves or deepened their value proposition in quite possibly more than 10 years. I see this all the time. Now, the website is a great excuse. Your sales techniques are a great excuse, but they are not the problem when you're looking for consequential and meaningful breakthroughs. They are simply the excuse, not the reason. So you might also be challenging this. I've seen this a lot, where you've seen it before and you think, you know what, I'm different. My marketing is really outdated, and that may very well be true. And here's what I would suggest. If you are looking at your marketing and thinking it needs upgrades, it may very well need upgrades. However, without doing the work to get clear, that website upgrade and all the time and money and resources that you invest in upgrading your marketing will be a Band-Aid solution. And here's why. They may look more current. They may look more refreshed. However, your results won't improve because you haven't actually changed. If you think you need a new brand refresh to improve your results, you probably need to put that on pause. You need to stop doing and start thinking. And what will really move the needle in your business is understanding what it is that is going to connect you to depth and clarity. So the real question that you need to be asking yourself is not how do I get more done, or how do I do it better, or how do I do more of it. That's not the question. The real question is whether or not you're willing to break free from your habit of being in action long enough to actually stop, pause, and get clear on what actually matters. So let's break this down for you so that you can better understand now what you can do and how I have helped other clients. The first thing that will help you is to identify a couple of things. The first one is your strengths. Identify your strengths. This is very common, and most of my clients already have either a clear or intuitive sense of what they're good at. What I want to emphasize here is not necessarily what you're good at. I actually want to highlight what you're naturally drawn to. So your strengths are as much your gift as they are your curse. Because what happens is when we have a strength, we can often exaggerate that strength to the point where it no longer serves us. This happens a lot. I see this all the time. We've talked about that in a previous video around too much. So if you're thinking that you have a strength and you are not optimizing it, the reason you're not optimizing it is because you're tentative. If you're tentative, you're holding back and you're limiting yourself. And I'm going to get into that in another video. But what you're doing is being tentative because that strength, you're not comfortable with the degree of value that strength can actually generate. So that once you identify what your strengths are and what you actually like to do that empowers you, the next thing I want you to think about, the second part to identify, is what actually excites you. So a key question that I will ask all my clients is, yes, you have your work to do. You have your job and you have certain things that you must discover, you must find out in order to do your job. This is the information gathering stage, or this is the part where you're trying to understand what is it the client actually needs. That's part of your job. The bigger question for you to think about and really identify is, what is it about their problem that excites you? Where do you want to dig into because you are passionate about that specific thing? So I've seen clients who, information gathering is critical, understanding their goals and needs is critical, understanding their objectives and what it is that they're trying to accomplish. All of that is important. But there are probably one or two areas that you are most interested in. The rest is necessary, and you've mastered the art of being able to do that, but there's probably one or two areas that excite you. What is it about their problem that you really, really want to know? What is it about their issue or their goals or their challenges or their life circumstances, whatever it is that you are hungry to discover, that you are excited to learn about? Whatever that is a major, major part of your value proposition. And if you haven't given any thought to that, which is very common, by the way, if you haven't given any thought to that, you're probably missing a major opportunity in your business. The reason it's common to not do this is because you've been focused so much on being who you need to be for your clients in service of their needs and objectives. I totally get that. That is totally normal. And what we want to do is not change that necessarily, but put a lens on yourself. What is it that you love to do? What is it that excites you about your work? This is a major, major theme, and it is a key component in transforming your value proposition and actually creating the kind of breakthrough that you want. Knowing what your strengths are is one thing, and knowing what your strengths are in a way that excites you and lights you up, and knowing what you can do with them, is the next edge of your growth learning and growth trajectory, if you will. The second thing that I want to highlight here is, what do you commit to? And what I see very, very often is, again, you're in a service business. So of course you're going to commit to your clients' needs. You're going to be in service of their needs and objectives. And so there are things that you must do in order to serve those needs and objectives. There are also things that you probably think you should do, or that you need to do, or that you feel are necessary because you think, if I don't do that, I won't be competitive. If we don't do that, we'll lose clients. We should do that because that's what clients are expecting. This is what I would call the danger zone. Those commitments are things that you are pushing yourself to do, not because you want to, but because you feel you have to. And there are some that are absolutely true. There are some things that you must do in order to actually do your job. The next edge for you to think about, what are the things that you actually want to commit to? Not because you have to, not because you should, but because you actually genuinely can't help yourself. These are things that, whether you're required to do them or not, They are embedded in your system, and you are absolutely committed to those things because you can't help yourself. These are commitments that we rarely think about. So when you think about yourself and your services, the company, and the kind of commitments that you as a company make because of the embedded culture that is already part of who you are, these are the commitments you want to notice because they are internally generated. They are serving internal needs, and they're extremely easy to fulfill because you're already doing it. These commitments are an essential part of your value proposition and understanding the depth that is available to you that you are not yet accessing. This is part of your differentiation strategy. This is part of the clarity that you need to develop in order to access more creativity and more innovation to help you climb to the next level of success. Now, along with that, the third thing that we want you to do is what I would call simplify and stop doing some things. I see this constantly with clients where they are doing so many things, and a lot of the things they do again or have developed because clients have asked for them, or because they feel that they need to, or because they feel that it's something that's important and all their competitors are doing it. So in order to be competitive, they have to do these things. That's not true. The only thing that's going to make you competitive is the extent and the depth and the scale of impact of your value. So the only thing you actually need to worry about is how are you uniquely creating value at a high level of impact. So there's a lot of things that you are doing that are actually inhibiting your growth because you're diluted, you're diversified into too many services, some of which you've only done a few times because only a few clients have asked for those things. So think about the areas where you are spending time, money, and resources that are not genuinely having the kind of value impact that you actually want to help with your clients. What is it that you're doing that is maybe not aligned with what you think is important, maybe not aligned with the systems that you already have in place that you respect, value, and want to develop? What are the things that are sort of offshoots of your main value proposition? Identify what those are and start thinking about whether or not they have any real impact on your business results. This very often turns into a client training opportunity. So you may think this is something that the client wants, and the client may be asking for it simply because they have come to understand from other sources, whether it's news, media, friends, other experts they've worked with, but they have come to expect that because they've experienced it before, but not necessarily because it's something that they value or that they think is important. Remember, your clients are looking for you to create massive outcomes for them. How you do it is going to be very important for your clients in terms of their experience of your work. Now, if they experience your work in a meaningful way where they think, I like the way you deliver, they're not going to care whether it's been done differently in the past, or whether you drop it altogether because it's not directly adding value to their experience in your work together. What they care about is the journey and the outcome that gets them the kind of impact they want. So when you are looking at your business, the first thing, I'm going to repeat back for you now, the top 3 things that we want you to think about straight out of the gates to help you get clear and stop being so busy. So the first one, again, is identify your strengths and notice what excites you about the problems your clients are trying to solve. Where does your interest go? That's the first thing. The second thing you want to do is figure out what you're genuinely, authentically committed to. Not because you think you need to, not because it's a should, but because you genuinely can't help yourself. What are things that you maybe are doing because you can't help yourself, and where might you be compromising and not doing these things because you haven't prioritized them and you feel out of alignment or feel out of integrity because you're not? And then the third area, simplify and stop doing some of those things that are diluting and diversifying your value proposition such that it cannot have the magnitude of impact that you intend. It can't be as valuable simply because you're diluted. So these are the main ideas that we want you to think about. Now, at this point, what we want to really emphasize for you is your marketing materials are not the problem. They can certainly help your process and help your sales and help you grow. But if you are stagnated and plateaued, your marketing materials, new sales tactics, or even improved systems will not move the needle at the level that you want. You are in a relationship business, and this is such an important thing to remember. You're not in a retail business selling products. You're not an online business like Amazon. You're in a relationship business. And the reason you're not growing is due to a lack of clarity on your part. You may have become habituated to being busy and growing your revenues or growing your client base through busy activity, which is very, very normal at the beginning of our work as we're starting out and getting busy, and you're generating, you're a generator, you're doing stuff to get results, and that's very normal. But at a certain point, doing stuff doesn't necessarily have the same impact as thinking about stuff. So you're not growing because your clarity has plateaued. You're not growing because you're not yet connected to the depth and the impact of your most valuable work. So staying in action is a very easy way to justify your efforts. It's a really easy way for you to feel like you're making progress. I'm doing so much. I hear this a lot. I'm already doing so much. And what I'm suggesting is you might actually be doing too much. And I see this a lot. Clients who are doing too much tend to stagnate because they are not getting clear. They're not focusing enough. So doing more and improving what you have is going to only contribute to your plateau. It will absolutely not create the kind of breakthroughs that matter. So until you get clear, you are simply delaying your growth. You're limiting your ability to achieve the levels of success and accomplishment that you really want. So in my next video, I'm going to help you understand why your expertise is blocking your growth. Join us there.